Emily, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, just enjoying this nice weather. How are you?
Yeah, really good, really good. And as we spoke before, I'm very jealous of where you are right now. It looks gloriously sunny. And you were telling me that you had a last minute hitting practice today. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was really good. I hit with Katie Dunn, so I just drove up there and we had a really good session. It's nice to just actually get out of the house and be away from the normal that has become normal over the past couple of months. So it was nice to do something different and to see someone.
How are you managing, or how have you managed doing your training during the lockdown?
Um, it's been difficult, but I think at the start when lockdown was announced, I said to myself, like, I'm not going to treat this as a negative. I'm not going to get down about this. I'm just going to deal with it as it is and be positive and really use it to benefit myself physically and mentally. So I've done a lot of fitness, more than I would normally do. I've done a lot of mental work, and also my mum has been throwing me some tennis balls, so I've managed to keep my eye in just a little bit.
I'm glad you've mentioned Mum there because she's part of Team Apples. Is that right? Tell me about Team Apples. Who makes it up? Where did the name come from?
She created it just one day when I think when I was still in juniors, and she uses that as her Twitter handle and on Instagram as well. So that's sort of her page, but it's kind of all about me.
And it's for you, that relationship between you and your mum, because she helps you with your coaching, obviously, but she's also your mum. How do you keep the two separate from each other?
Yeah, I mean, during this time, it's actually been fine. We haven't really like fallen out or anything. And she's, yeah, as I said, she's been throwing me balls and stuff. But normally she just keeps out of the way of the tennis stuff. So we have a good balance, and yeah, we get on pretty well.
And speaking about lockdown, when I spoke to Katie all those weeks ago, she said she had to get really creative in lockdown and got some tires to help her with her training. What creative methods have you used to keep up with your training?
Gosh, I don't think I've been that creative, to be honest. Right before lockdown, luckily, my fitness coach gave me all of his equipment that he had. So, because I didn't have anything, and I think I would have been in a bit of a mess if I hadn't got any of that. So I was lucky to have all of his equipment. But apart from that, I don't really know if I've been creative. We bought a rebound net to hit against, but that's about it.
And did you have a chance to try out Roger Federer's challenge of hitting the ball against the wall quite
I didn't
quickly?
actually, but I've had a go at a few other challenges, like the Don't Rush challenge and I think the toilet paper challenge that was at the start of lockdown.
Oh, toilet paper, yes. Anyway, so let's talk about you and your journey so far. How old were you when you first picked up a racket?
I was really young actually. I think I was about 3 because my dad used to play, so he was always keen to get me into the sport. But I didn't really start taking it seriously until I was probably 10.
And when was that light bulb moment when you thought, actually, I'm quite good at this. I want to pursue this as my career?
Yeah, well, I was juggling tennis and badminton. I played badminton to quite a good level. And then out of pretty much nowhere, I won the under 12 nationals. And that was when sort of it clicked. I was like, oh, maybe I am quite good at this. And that's when I decided to sort of take tennis a bit more seriously and yeah, drop everything else really.
And then how did you manage that in terms of your pursuing your career, but also with schoolwork as well? Because that can be quite a juggle at times with schoolwork, friends, training, competition. How did you manage all that?
It was really difficult actually, but luckily the school I went to, the headmistress was amazing and let me travel all the time as long as I kept up with the work. So I was pretty much in and out all the time, and I even took one of my A levels at the French Open in Paris. Yeah, so it was crazy, but somehow managed to do it.
Well, tell me about that. Taking an A level during the French Open, did that mean the invigilator was there with you as well?
Yeah, and I wasn't even able to get to the British school in Paris. So the invigilator came to my hotel and sat in my hotel room whilst I took my economics A level for 2 hours. She just sat there in my room reading a book whilst I did this paper. It was a bit surreal, really. And then I played a French Open match the next day.
That's exactly the word I was going to describe that. That is totally surreal to have someone sitting in the hotel room for a couple of hours and then you go and play a match next day. I mean, economics is a topic that is what goes way beyond my head. Is in terms of, post tennis, are you thinking about some sort of career in economics, or would you like to stay in tennis?
I'd love to stay in tennis really for as long as possible. I feel like I've still got a long way to go, and I haven't really given myself enough of a chance yet. So I'd love to, just pursue my tennis career for now.
Absolutely right. So let's talk about your Sky scholarship. For those who don't know, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm supported by Sky. They obviously help me financially, which really helps. But it's not just about that with Sky. It's a scholarship program, and so we get so much more than just money. We get mentors, we get media help. We get support through loads of people through Sky, and it's just a really great family to be part of.
And how long have you been part of that scholarship?
Since 2017.
And in terms of the scholarship, where do you think it'll be able to take you?
I mean, it's helped me massively, obviously financially, but also just having the belief and support of people from Sky. It's helped my confidence a lot. And whenever I need help with something that I can't get from my team or from my parents, then they're definitely the ones that I look to for support.
You talk about support because tennis is such a solitary sport. We've heard, the top players talking about how lonely it can be. And you've traveled to some far-flung places. Tell us where you've been and how you've managed to, keep yourself sane during those tours when you've been pretty much on your own.
I think I've been to every continent. And I've spent a lot of time in South America during my junior days, but I actually really enjoyed going to all these places. I mean, there's obviously some that are much nicer than others, but in general, I like the travel and I like being able to see certain parts of the city and whatever. But yeah, as you said, it can get very lonely, especially if you're traveling alone. And that's something I've noticed in the pros compared to the juniors, is that it's much more lonely, as everyone's just out for themselves, understandably. But it's just something to get used to.
And you talk about you mentioned about support, as we've talked about already, but the one thing that has come in handy when you've been away is when things go wrong. So when I was doing my prep, there was an article you talk about your luggage went missing. Tell us how you managed that, because you were due to play that day and your luggage hadn't turned up and someone thankfully came to your rescue.
Yeah, so I was playing a 25k in Germany about a year ago actually, and we didn't go with much time before the first match because it's Germany, it's not too far away, and all three of our bags got lost and they didn't know where it was, and I had to play like within 2 days time and they still hadn't arrived. So thankfully my doubles partner at the time lent me her second-hand shoes, so I wore those, and then we rushed out to buy like clothes, anything we could find, and then I borrowed rackets, I borrowed hats, I borrowed everything, and actually somehow managed to win my first match. So yeah, it was actually quite a good week.
Congratulations on that. I mean, we do tend to forget sometimes that logistics around tennis travel is big, isn't it? Because you're obviously carrying your equipment and all your clothing and so on and so forth, and if you're at that top level, you'll get that sorted for you. But if you're still working your way up the ranks, that's something else to think about, as well as trying to win matches and win points and win prize money too.
Yeah, it can be really stressful. It's something I actually find probably the most stressful thing about traveling, is dealing with all the logistics and everything. That's why I think having a coach, or at least someone there to travel with you to help you with that and support you with those stresses, is really important. And that's why I always like to travel with someone if possible.
And which would you say is your favourite place that you've been to so far?
Definitely Australia. I think I have really good memories there because I made the quarterfinals of the Australian Open as a junior. But also just the country and the people were so lovely and so friendly. But I also love playing in America. It's like my second home. So yeah, that always brings good comfort. Speaking
of America, a few of your fellow tennis players I've spoken to made the decision to go and study and train in the States. That's not something you've decided to do, or would you like to do that maybe later down the line?
So I actually had a scholarship to Vanderbilt University. So I committed there and everything, but then I got this amazing opportunity from Sky, and it was a no-brainer to take the Sky opportunity. So at the time I postponed my Vanderbilt scholarship, gave it up really. So yeah, I just chose not to go down that route. But it's obviously university is amazing in that you can go whenever you'd like. Maybe I won't go to a US one, but it's always on the cards.
Yeah, that's very much true. So before the season went into lockdown, what was the one thing from a personal perspective you were working on, and the one thing from a personal perspective you were working on?
So I think personally, I've just been working on trying to, it sounds cliche, but trying to become a better version of myself, improve just little things here and there in my everyday life, and try and really work on my self-confidence and finding other interests other than tennis, so that I'm not just about tennis. And then on the court, I've been working a lot mentally as well on decision making and match analysis and things like that.
And what do you feel that you need to do to work your way back up the ranks?
I think, well, a number of things. I think physically I can always get better. I can improve my power and strength and aerobic capacity. But also I think a lot of it is mental. I think the transition from juniors to seniors is hard, and whilst one is warned about that, it can come as a shock. And I think it's obviously, I found it quite difficult, but I am finding my feet now, and I think I'm making good steps in the right direction mentally and with myself, and I think that can help a lot with my confidence on court.
How much do you think people underestimate that transition between juniors and seniors?
I mean, I think it's a really difficult one. I was at the top of the juniors. I was 10 in the world, so I couldn't have done much better really. So I got used to the amazing tournaments, the Grand Slams, being treated like a pro, and then all of a sudden you just go back to the bottom again, and you got to work yourself up, and it can be difficult. It can come as a shock because you go from the amazing Grand Slams to some random town in the middle of Morocco, and you have to just get used to that. But it's all part of the journey, and I think you've got to go through it to grow as well. So it's important.
And you look at somebody like Coco Gauff, who I think you and I both will say that she's an absolutely amazing player. I don't think she's from this planet, quite frankly, of what she's been able to achieve over the last few months or so. But I do, in my mind, I look at her and I still think she's still a young person. She's still learning. She's still growing. And I'm hoping that that support network around her will help her ground her feet, which I think they will anyway. But what would your advice be to a budding junior player if they're thinking about making that transition to the seniors? What would be your advice?
I think my advice would be, no matter what level you are in the juniors, whether you're not that great or you're one of the top, it's a slow journey to the top, unless you're obviously one of the extremes like Coco. And just be patient and try and really enjoy the ride. And again, it sounds like everyone says that, but it's true. You need to enjoy what you're doing, and if you're not, it's not the right path for you. So I think it's just important to really try and enjoy your training, your matches, everything about it, and that's the quickest way you'll improve as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen somebody like Naomi Osaka. I don't know if you saw the news story last week that she's now the highest, and I want to get this right, the highest paid female athlete, according to Forbes magazine. She has a prize pot of money and sponsorships as well, around about £30 million in our money, and she's got 2 Grand Slams under her belt as well. That's fantastic that she's the highest paid female athlete. Did you ever believe that Serena would be toppled one day?
No, it's crazy. It just shows you like how great Osaka is, and I mean, it's obviously known how good she is, but it just puts it into perspective, doesn't it? And it also shows that there are other people that can do what Serena's done, and it gives hope to other players as well. So it's nice.
I'd agree with that, and also I think the fact that you've had different Grand Slam winners as well over the last few months or so keeps the tour and the Grand Slams quite exciting. And at some point, someone was going to make the breakthrough. I don't know if we'll see somebody as dominant as Serena until like a few years down the line, but I think it's fantastic that you've had different young players who are coming through who are not afraid of the big stage. How do you handle the big stage?
I actually love the big stage. I think I perform better in front of like a lot of people than when I'm just out there by myself. I like the feeling that you get, and you're almost playing for other people as well as yourself, and it just gives it more importance, and it's like when you play for your country. I mean, I haven't obviously represented as a senior, but as a junior, when I played for my country, it just feels different. It feels more special. And it's the same when you have a big crowd. You just want to put on a good show as well as like playing your best tennis. It's a good combination.
Absolutely. But the flip side of it, of course, because we've got the terrible event with the coronavirus pandemic, and it is looking increasingly likely that a lot of events now will be behind closed doors for the foreseeable future. The US Open, they're hoping that they'll be able to get that going in August, and then the French Open, Roland Garros, in September, again behind closed doors. How does a tennis player manage that mindset if they're so used to, like you say, being in the big stage and feeding off that energy from the crowd, and then all of a sudden there is only the officials there on the court? How difficult is it to manage that mindset?
I think it'll be really bizarre for the players. I think it'll take definitely a while to get used to. Certainly, even the British tournaments that they're talking about hosting in July are all going to be behind closed doors. And when I first heard that, I was a bit shocked. I obviously understand why. But yeah, I think it'll definitely just take some time to get used to it. Probably won't be as good or the same playing them because you haven't got that energy to bounce off from the crowds and the spectators. But you know, it's all for a good cause, and hopefully if we can do this and play behind closed doors, hopefully that will speed up the process to getting back to normal.
You mentioned about the British events. Of course, Jamie Murray's got his Battle of the Brits, which is a mixture of the men's singles and the doubles in a few weeks' time. You've also got the mixed event with the, I think it's 16 men and women, isn't it, for the LTA down at both at Roehampton for their event. How good is it to know that competitive tennis is back?
It's amazing, and I think they've done a really good job of bringing it back so soon. I certainly didn't expect like competitions to be available for us in July. So it's great. I think we're all just really eager to get back on court and play competition in some way, whether it's behind closed doors or not. And yeah, I think it gives us all a really good opportunity to just test ourselves, get out there again, and yeah, really enjoy it.
And you talk about the competitions being back. Which competitions are you hoping to take part in?
I'll hopefully take part in some of the ones in July. Yeah, the British tours that are becoming available. That would be the plan for me.
And of course, you're not just a tennis player, you're a human being as well. What do you like to do outside of the sport?
I'm quite a big foodie, so
Can you cook?
Yeah, baking is one of my things that I like to do, like at the weekend and stuff. I also like to go out to eat and things. I've also started reading more during lockdown, which is quite therapeutic. What else? I started doing a paint by numbers. But also, yeah, just seeing friends when possible, watching Netflix, you know, all those standard things.
Because again, we tend to forget, if you're a tennis player, you're pretty much on tour 10, 11 months of the year. Is that the same for you? Is that the same kind of time frame when you're touring? And pretty now pretty much. And now this pandemic's giving you a chance just to recharge, reassess.
Yeah.
What were you think for 2021? What do you have an idea of what goal you'd like to set for yourself?
I mean, I guess it obviously depends on what's happening in the world. But yeah, I'd love to get out there again, start competing, start really thriving and finding my feet, and yeah, picking up loads of wins and hopefully rising up the rankings.
I keep my fingers crossed for you on that front. And by the way, you're baking. You talk about baking. What type of things do you like to bake? Are you like cheesecakes or something, like cakes in general?
So I've decided over this period of lockdown that I was going to go paleo. So I've been struggling with finding things to bake because that pretty much restricts everything. But yeah, I've been making like granola, the standard banana breads. Yeah, anything that I possibly can.
Well, keep it up. Don't let it lapse. I know you, Jo Cont as well, isn't she? She's a massive, she loves baking as well. I must say, every time I've been into the supermarket, I can't find flour for love or money.
No, or vanilla extract.
Yeah. Hopefully that will change over in the next few weeks or so. But, you know, Emily, thank you so much for talking to me in this glorious afternoon from your lovely back garden there. Yeah. All the best for the rest of the season and best of luck in the competitions in July.
Thank you very much.